Good evening, comrades and friends. I, R.C. Murthy, Vice President of General Insurance Employees Salary Association, residing at Bangalore, welcome you all for our third seminar, which we have organized to celebrate the golden jubilee year of our organization. In today's seminar topic is History Beckons the Working Class, which will be presented before you all by Comrade Muralidhar Chikmagalur, an eminent practicing lawyer and the General Secretary of Indian Association of Lawyers. Comrade Muralidhar joined Central Civil Services in the year 1971 and later joined Indian Institute of Management. He was a guest lecturer in SDM Institute of Management. He joined the trade union movement in 1972. He was also the State Secretary of the AITC, Karnataka State Committee, for the last 8 years, from 2000 to 2008. Then he joined the legal profession under the great senior advocate, Comrade M.C. Narasimha. Now, I request you all to listen Comrade Muralidhar Chikmagalur. We chosen the relevant subject in today's context of working class struggles. Thank you all. Now I request Comrade Muralidhar Chikmagalur to place his viewpoints.
Thank you, Mr. Murthy. Thank you, comrade. I am extremely grateful to the General Insurance Employees All India Association for having given me yet another occasion to share some of my views, some of my thoughts, and my deep concern about today's topic, history beckons the working class. When Murthy wanted me to speak on this subject as a sequel to the series of lectures organized by the GIC Employees Union, I readily accepted in view of the fact that during the pandemic, we have not been able to meet, discuss, exchange our views, and work our strategies in respect of various issues concerning the working class and the people at large. Before I start, I would like to congratulate the General Insurance Employees All India Association, all its past leaders, past members, present leaders, present members, for having travelled 50 glorious years through the path of struggle and for having held the flag very high all these years. Congratulations to all of you. I have addressed many meetings in the past in the presence of live audience, but now the situation has completely changed. We are reduced to speaking monologues and not dialogues. We are reduced to speaking what is called as Mann Ki Baat. Not because some leader is doing it for years, but because of the extraordinary situation created by the coronavirus pandemic. Friends, in my view, the working class is historically in a critical and crucial juncture Therefore, the today's topic, history becomes the working class, is very relevant and timely. When I mention history, as you all know, history is replete with instances that whenever the ruling class faces economic crisis, political crisis, social upheavals, there will be attack on democratic rights, civil liberties, and trade union rights. I have worked in the trade union movement for 5 decades now. In my journey through the trade union movement and in my journey as a professional lawyer, I have come to realize that politics follows economics. Therefore, we in the trade union movement have realized the need to be informed about the state of economy of a nation, as it has a bearing on the trade union movement, working class movement. There is a correlation between the economic situation of a country and the trade union movement of the country. All of us know that Indian economy, even before the coronavirus made its entry into this country, somewhere during January, February 2020, by that time, lakhs of micro, small, medium enterprises, what we call as MSME, was in deep crisis. Lakhs of MSME enterprises had closed down, leading to lakhs of job losses. MSME sector is considered as the backbone of Indian economy, and it is not without reasons. MSME sector constitute 85% of all enterprises in this country, and it contributes 31% to the GDP. It contributes 49% to the exports of the country, and above all, it provides 12.4 lakh jobs. According to the Reserve Bank of India report, MSME sector was adversely affected by two factors or two events. One is demonetization and the second is GST rollout. They suffered these two major shocks between 2016 and 2018. It has resulted in crisis, even according to the RBI report. Friends, if MSME sector is in crisis, the Indian economy is in crisis. If MSME sector is in crisis and the Indian economy is in crisis, it has created crisis for the working class in the form of job losses. Job losses is a major problem confronting the working class today. Therefore, what cannot be disputed by the government, by the economists, by other experts is that the crisis that was already there before the advent of coronavirus, the Indian economy was in deep crisis, and that crisis was government made. The impulsive decision to lock down the economic activities, to lock down the other activities with 4 hours notice on 24th March 2020 has pushed the economy on the brink of collapse. All of us know that Indian economy was in very serious crisis even before the coronavirus made its entry into this country. By that time, thousands of MSME sector had closed down. The coronavirus, no doubt, has created a serious health crisis, not only in India, but across the globe. But the impulsive decision to impose lockdown from the midnight of 25th March 2020 by the central government has pushed the Indian economy on the brink of collapse. Rajiv Bajaj, the managing director of Bajaj Auto Limited, very aptly said that the crisis started with the virus. It is being propagated by the government. Our finance minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, wants us to believe that the coronavirus, the pandemic, is an act of God. I very respectfully differ from our finance minister. An act of God, what is called in legal terms vis major, cannot be controlled. An act of God cannot be controlled. It can be a volcano eruption, it can be a tsunami hitting, it can be torrential rains, and it can be earthquake, and nothing can be prevented, controlled. So what can be controlled is not an act of God or vis major. Coronavirus can be controlled. If we get a vaccine, I am sure this virus can be controlled. My point is this: we can't hide our failures. The government cannot hide their failures, its failures, behind the pandemic. Therefore, the unprecedented economic crisis that is created in post-pandemic period is not an act of God, but it is government made. The point is that Indian economy, as we have all seen, had betrayed acute sickness even before the advent of pandemic, and the economy has seen its worst contraction in decades, shrinking by 23.9% during April-June quarter of 2020, according to the report of National Statistical Office. 23.9% contraction during the period April to June. Then Moody's Investor Services has assessed India's growth projection for the current fiscal at minus 11.5%. Goldman Sachs expects India's growth to be at minus 14.8% for the fiscal year 2020-2021. The Asian Development Bank, ADB, India is part of it, has estimated the economic contraction at 9% during 2021. The financial institutions or rating agencies have not given any optimistic picture. Rather, they have painted a very gloomy picture of the Indian economy. Former chief economic advisor to Mr. Modi's government, Mr. Aravind Subramaniam, said that Indian economy is in ICU. The current position of the economy is in a very serious crisis is there for all to see. Well, friends, I have quoted some of the figures given by rating agencies and government officers. I am referring to the ongoing economic crisis in order to drive home the point that it is the cause and effect for the present problems faced by the working class and common man. Let me start with the migrant labor for a change, the most neglected section of the Indian working class. The thoughtless decision to impose lockdown with just 4 hours notice shocked the interstate migrant labor beyond belief. They could not believe. The migrant labor, who constitute 8 crore of the Indian working class population, had lost their daily wage earnings overnight. They were living in cities like Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai, and various other city centers and towns. They lost their earnings overnight, and worst is, they could not even get back to their native place. Because all the transport, road, rail, had come to a standstill. They were in a very, very deep crisis at that point of time. What is very unfortunate is that the government had no idea about the migrant laborers residing in these cities. They were not in a position to earn their wages, nor were they in a position to go back to their native places. What is most shameful, friends, is the fact that the government was asked one question in the parliament by an MP. He wanted to know, the honorable member of parliament wanted to know how many migrant laborers lost their lives during the period of lockdown. Unfortunately, the government was not in a position to answer because it said it had not collected any data on that. That is a national shame indeed. It can be the most callous reply concerning the workforce who toil hard to create the wealth of the nation. The migrant labor is vastly unorganized sector, but they contribute 50% to the GDP. This section of the workforce is considered as the engine of growth. They work along with permanent workers, but get hardly noticed even by the permanent workers. They are exploited for cheap labor by the managements. The migrant labor has what is called as Interstate Migrant Labor Act 1979, but it is followed only in breach. Not even one state has records about migrant labor migrating from its state to another state. Even the receiving state does not maintain the record of the migrant labor. This enactment is very, very scantily followed by the Labor Department. So when the lockdown was declared, they had no other options. The migrant labor had no other option but to walk hundreds of miles to reach their homes. Workers died on the road. Workers died on the railway tracks. Workers died because of boat accidents. The country witnessed a human tragedy unfolding before their eyes. Government arranged flights to bring people who are stranded abroad. But the government was not prepared to make any arrangement to see that the migrant labor reached their native places. The government's bias was exposed. The migrant labor have lost their means of livelihood. It's a national shame and the worst period in the history of working class. Now consider this article by Shri Harikishan Sharma in the Indian Express on September 2020. According to the National Crime Records Bureau, that is called NCRB, of the total number of deaths by suicide, 1,39,123. The death of daily wage earner is 32,563, which is 23.4% in 2019. This is excluding the agriculture workers. Another report published in the news portal scroll.in, it has reported that a vast number of them belong to scheduled caste. In 2020, the rate of death of unorganized workers might have gone up steeply. The media does not discuss this. The media does not discuss the death of the migrant workers. But in the case of death of a film actor Sushant Singh Rajput, the electronic media is conducting a relentless media trial. India's working class is skewed in that the organized workers constitute just about 7%, whereas the unorganized sector constitute 93%. It is according to all the government reports, including that of the Second National Labour Commission, which gave its report in 2002. The minority organized workforce, they enjoy better wages, social welfare benefits, and some protection and security of job. It is because they have an ecosystem where they can organize themselves into trade unions and seek better wages and service conditions. And in the event they fail to get these things through collective bargaining, they can go to the courts and work out their remedies. On the other hand, the vast majority of workers comprising migrant labor, contract labor, daily wagers, casual workers, trainees, NEEM agents or NEEM trainees, fixed term employees can hardly organize themselves into trade unions. If by chance they venture to form trade unions, they are removed from employment. This majority workforce, 93%, has provided flexibility to the management to hire and fire the workers and also balance their wage bill substantially. However, the multinational corporations and the Indian companies are not satisfied with it. They have been exerting pressure on the central government to scrap or amend the labor laws so as to provide an environment where they get freedom to invest and freedom to exit. Since 2014, the cry for amendment of labor laws has become louder and louder. Friends, it is no secret that the present government at the center is pro-business and it is at the cost of labor and environment. The financial sector is being liberalized practically every day. Foreign banks and foreign insurance companies are being patronized by the government at the cost of public sector banks and insurance corporations, both general insurance and life insurance. As a lawyer practicing for a long time now, I never felt that the labor laws like Trade Unions Act, Industrial Disputes Act, Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, Plantation Labor Act, Mines Act, Factories Act, Contract Labor Act, Maternity Benefits Act, and a host of other labor laws, I never felt they were complex labor legislations. They were not cumbersome, they were effective. Crores of industrial disputes have been resolved by the courts on the basis of these simple labor law legislations in the last 60 to 70 years. We did not find any difficulty in dealing with these labor laws. They were made as horses for the courses. In a particular, if it is for mines, it is Mines Act. If it is plantation, it is Plantation Act. As such, it did not warrant the central government to reduce these simple labor laws into 4 labor codes. The result, as we see, is that simple labor laws today have been made complex, cumbersome, and perhaps ineffective as it would unfold. By now, we have come to know that the pandemic is the hour of the executive. I have briefly referred to the misery, humiliation, hunger, loss of livelihood faced by 8 crore migrant labor and their family members during the lockdown period. Post-lockdown period continues to be the hour of the executive. the governor of Uttar Pradesh, at the instance of the state government, has issued ordinance which is called as executive legislation, by giving complete exemption from the application of the labor legislations in the entire state. Labor is in the concurrent list. Therefore, both the central government and the state governments can amend labor laws. The governor of Karnataka has passed ordinance to amend the Industrial Disputes Act to provide for a free exit to the industrial establishments which employ less than 300 workers. The existing ceiling was 100 workers. They need not seek prior permission to lay off, to retrench the workmen and close down the establishments. Factory Act has been amended so as to exempt factories employing 20 workers with power and 40 workers without power from the purview of definition of factory. A large number of factories employing 20 and less with power, 40 and less without power, now they are not considered as factories, and therefore the workers will not be considered as workers of the factory, and Factory Act is not applicable. Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act has been amended by an ordinance to the effect that now a labor contractor need not possess a license issued by the competent authority under the Act to engage workmen up to 39 workers. Worst is the notification issued by the state of Karnataka, whereby the notification stated, at the instance of employers, that the variable dearness allowance payable to the workers in minimum wage sector, it comes to around 50 lakhs in Karnataka state. They say that variable dearness allowance payable from April 2020 to March 2021 to be deferred. Each workman gets 417 rupees per month as variable dearness allowance between April 2020 and March 2021. Now you can calculate what would be the amount that the employers in minimum wages sector would receive by way of the non-payment of variable dearness allowance. What would be the amount that they would save? You can imagine the cruelty of the government and of that of the employers. What is happening in Uttar Pradesh, what is happening in Karnataka, I am sure is also happening in many of the other states like Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand and other places. These executive legislations, ordinances passed by the governor, now they have come to be called as the Corona ordinances. What is really bothering us is that there is an unhealthy, undesirable competition amongst the state governments to woo foreign investment into their state. The cooperative federalism, as enshrined in the Indian Constitution, is giving way to competitive federalism. Indeed, a very, very dangerous trend has set in. I happened to see the new industrial policy document issued by the government of Karnataka, and probably all the state governments would be having a similar policy documents for the next 5 years. Now they say what is required to be done for doing ease of doing business is to liberalize the labor, land and environmental laws. Therefore, Karnataka government has amended the Land Reforms Act, Karnataka Land Reforms Act of 1961, whereby now a farmer can sell his land to an industrialist, to a company or to a rich person. Therefore, there will be speedy conversion of agricultural land into for industrial purposes and within a stipulated time. The project proponents now can directly procure land from the landowners. Such land required for the project to such an extent as approved by the state government. As regards labor, the policy document of Karnataka has assured liberal working hours, multiple shift for women employees, minimum wage stabilization, fixed term employment, contract employment, exemption from application of labor laws to manufacturing SCZs, etc. The document further claims that it puts special emphasis on simplification of regulatory framework and ease of doing business with respect of land and labor. We can find such policy documents framed by almost all the states to woo what is called as foreign direct investment. Recently, 2 farm bills have been passed by the parliament and particularly in the Rajya Sabha in the most undemocratic manner in the history of parliament. Now let us see what are the consequences of the industrial policies of the government both at the center and the states. According to the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, about 10 to 12 crore jobs have been lost due to the national lockdown. Center for Monitoring Indian Economy has found that 5.9 million, 60 lakhs of 18 million white collar jobs in the country have been lost during May to August 2020. Significant to note that 34% of women have lost their jobs. According to the economist Ashwini Deshpande, job losses among scheduled castes were 3 times higher than the upper castes. According to Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, Finance Minister, employment in government fell by 60% in June 2020. Trainees, probationers, contract workers, casual labor have lost their jobs during the pandemic. During working hours have been increased in factories beyond 8 hours. Today, the managements are negotiating with the union not for increasing wages, but for reduction of wages, wage reduction. Closure, retrenchment and layoff have become the order of the day. We may now clearly see that the central government and several state governments have joined hands to attack the rights of the workers, both organized and unorganized. Not only the working class is under sustained attack, the other sections of the population are also under attack by the ruling class. Farmers are under attack. Citizens belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes are under attack. Minority communities are under attack. The students of university students are under attack. Example, JNU, Aligarh, Hyderabad universities. Democratic dissent is under attack. Even lawyers are under attack. Take the instance of Prashant Bhushan ji, the contempt case mounted on him. Friends, the working class and farmers and common people have hugely suffered on account of the reckless action of demonetization and the rollout of GST. MSME sector is yet to recover from the consequences of demonetization. Small traders have suffered due to rash implementation of GST and are still suffering. The working masses, farmers, small traders suffered due to rash implementation of GST and are still suffering. The working masses, farmers, small shopkeepers, hoteliers and women have suffered on account of the hasty lockdown. Friends, in Bangalore, it is reported that more than a lakh of shops, hotels have been closed down during the pandemic or during the lockdown. The question that we should ask, the key question that we should ask for ourselves is why we have to bear the brunt and suffer for all the reckless decisions, wrong policies of the government. That is the question. Why we should suffer for the reckless decisions and wrong policies of the government. I firmly believe that only section of the society that has the ability and courage to organize and stand up to the attacks, stand up to the government and change the course of history, and that is working class. Now the question is, can it rise to the challenge? My answer to this question is an emphatic yes. Yes, it can do. If it cannot do, who else can do it is the question. The organized working class can do it. You say that they are just 7% of the working population of India. Hence it is imperative that they organize the unorganized on a war footing. It is also necessary for its own survival. Yes, the organized working class can do it. They are just 7% of the workforce in India. You may wonder, can they do it? Yes, they can do it. But it is imperative that they organized the unorganized on a war footing. It is also necessary for its own survival. Today, even the organized workforce is shrinking with every passing day. To organize the unorganized or to remain organized, it's a very difficult job. But we have no choice. The unorganized can be organized, as trade union history has shown it. We have seen the organizations of daily wage workers in several states, the PWD workers, railway gangmen, PWD roadmen, forest department, various departments we have seen daily wage workers had organized themselves and got permanency. So, daily wage workers can be organized. There are several states where contract labor, the contract labor have been organized. casual workers have been organized. In some states, the organized working class has taken up the task of organizing the interstate migrant workers. That is the history of Indian working class. Committed leaders have shown us the way. I want to conclude my submission with two quotations. The first quotation is from Elmer Davis, a noted novelist and a journalist. What he said is very relevant for us today. He said, "The nation will remain the land of free. The nation will remain the land of free only so long as it is the home of the brave." Therefore, today the working class will have to be very brave to face this situation. The second quotation is from Mahatma Gandhi. Talking about strength, he said, "Strength does not come from winning. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strength. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, when you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is the strength." Friends, while thanking the General Insurance All India Employees Association, I wish to conclude that on an optimistic note, that factory unions, bank unions, insurance unions have a major role to play. And working class, if it has organized the unorganized and has increased its number and strength, it can be the driving force of history to change the present order. History beckons the working class. Thank you very much.